And I'll just quickly read the disclaimer and then we'll get to the agenda. So pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner: via Zoom. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. If we're unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we'll post an audio or video recording on the playlist on YouTube for the Library Building Committee as soon as possible after the meeting. So let's dive right into discussion of the repair project.
Awesome. I am setting up to share my screen. Okay, so I'll tell you exactly, is that sharing or is it? Okay, great, thank you. I'll tell you exactly what our recommendation is, then I'll go through some background, and that's the part that's a little clumsy here. So a couple of things for, I can even see a typo here too. So a couple of things for update information. So the project status is that after the CCD for the demolition of the pipe was signed at the last meeting, the work is now 100% complete. The work took 4 days for 2 workers, which was really, really good. And I'll get into that in a minute. A couple of other milestone achieved today in terms of a schedule. We had the full rough inspection sign off from the authorities having jurisdiction, the building inspector and the fire department. And what that means is all the wiring and piping and all the things that go in the walls before you can put up the drywall, if you will, to close in the walls, you need to have a rough inspection is what that is called. So today they had the final fire department walk through. So that final rough inspection was granted today. And on every schedule, you'll see that that's a thing on the schedule to have the rough inspection done. And that's then a step into the next phase of things where things get covered up. So I want to share with you that was this afternoon during our meeting that walkthrough happened. Another big deal is that we did have the roofer on site today. We had a pre-installation meeting. This happened to be for the flat roof area. We had the manufacturer there. We had the roofer there, the designer and our team, and certainly Seaver and their team as well. Seaver assembled this meeting. So the roofer was on site. We talked about all the good details, kind of a normal pre-installation meeting. And as everyone probably remembers, it's been quite a struggle to get progress with the roofer. So that's a big deal to have that today. Okay, so now into the nitty gritty. So on that last CCD, which is the construction change directive that we issued, that was in the amount of a not to exceed of $50,000. If you remember, that was in response to a proposal to do this work that was submitted to us and distributed to you. It wasn't exactly 100,000, a little bit over. I didn't have the figures exactly, but that was what was provided. We had this discussion last meeting and issued that for 50,000. We will get exactly what that number is going to tally for the cost, but at 64 hours, there will be some materials and markups, all contractual items. We expect that work will not come in at higher than $20,000 on that CCD, not to exceed 50,000 on the proposal of 100,000. So that's the really good news. So what, if you recall, the presentation of that was that Performance, who is the subcontractor doing this work, they said, once that pipe is down, we'll be able to better assess what the cost will be to do the installation. I don't understand that truthfully, but that's what they said. So we said, okay, we'll keep pushing that and provide the directives. So go start the demo. So that all has happened. Their original estimate was 300,000, a little bit more from Performance, meaning that Seaver has some markup and other costs as well, all contractual things. And so that was their order of magnitude to do the demo and the installation. So we take out the demolition. So where we are today is they have proposed, and this is this afternoon, a proposal to do the installation for $215,000. Within that proposal, they list 60,000 as material costs. So our directive is a time and materials. So materials are included in that. And they've listed 4 weeks to complete the installation. what we are asking with this meeting, we're pushing them. We're not waiting to review the proposal or any of that. We're pushing them, recommending that we push them with another CCD in the amount of $100,000 for the installation. We're also going to ask that they will consider adding crew to decrease the schedule time. They've indicated it's a 4-week installation to do this work. So that's our recommendation. And now what I'll do is I'll give you some background, which I probably could have had on this slide, but as I said, I didn't have a lot of time since running that meeting on site today. So what I'm going to show you, well, two things. I'll show you some pictures now. This is from our presentation at the last building committee meeting, but again, just to have you see them again. This is some of the rusty pipe. This is, you can see it's cut here. Then I have another picture here. Again, just to remind you what the condition looked like there. So what I'm going to show you now is the budget as presented at the last meeting and explain that a little bit. So this hasn't been changed. This is exactly the same that was presented last meeting. So this column here, the committed cost, that as compared to the budget, those are the two important columns because committed costs, those are contracts that are in place. How much has been spent of that committed cost? It doesn't, for this, the purpose of this conversation, doesn't matter because that's just a timing question. If it's a committed cost, it's going to be spent. So the amount is the important thing there that's committed. So this is the part that I'll show you this, and then the next page of the document I'll show you next. So these are the items, project management, design, and some more design items. We're not getting into that at the moment because the contingency is what I wanted to show you. So I'll show you again this budget and the committed costs. So the contingency, construction contingency, which is right here, this construction contingency. So this started at 9:55. The change order proposals that I bring and present to the committee, those get deducted from this contingency. They get covered, if you will, from this contingency. That's what 88,000 is. And then after that 88, it sat at 866,990. At this meeting, which is the next slide, we presented $73,000 worth of change orders, which I won't go to that screen. I'll just keep this one on for the moment. So if you just deduct from the 866, which is our current construction contingency, 73,638 was the number. Again, I could go to that on the screen, but it's going to say that number. Then the remaining contingency is 793,351. Just a simple subtraction of that 73 from the 866, 793,351. From that, we'll subtract what I'll just call $20,000 for the demolition component that we just talked about. That means there's 773,351 left in the construction contingency. If we grant this 100,000, that makes it 673. And I typically would have all this all presented, but I honestly had about 20 minutes to pull this together after the meeting. So 673, if this CCD is granted, is what would be available. The last CCD was for 50. We'll bring forward when it's ready exactly what those costs are. But the rest of that CCD, let's just say it's 30 grand, that is no longer a committed cost because we'll execute a change order for what I'm calling 20,000 and bring that to you for your approval for that CCD. So then the rest of that 30 is no longer a committed cost and it's just for demo. So we can't just apply it. So that's why we're asking for another one. So I'm going to go back up to the first screen. And this is, as I said, this is the clumsy part, is all this moving around. So again, the 673 is the current contingency if this not to exceed CCD is authorized. And that's what our question is. Let me just look at my other notes here. So we believe as a team, LPA and Vertex, we've done well to push this issue along with Seaver and with performance, because instead of having meetings to discuss these things, we know that we don't want to waste valuable time right now because we're trying to make this have minimal, we hope none, but we'll see, impact on the delivery of the library. There's, as I've shown you a few times, there's lots of room at the end of the project schedule to finish up and close out before substantial completion. So we're hoping and we'll continue to work hard to make this the most minimal impact possible schedule wise. And we don't know exactly where that's going to fall yet, but it's certainly within our complete focus to make sure that that is addressed and you'll be updated. I can't really commit any more than that at the moment. So pushing them has really worked out because instead of discussing it and arguing about it, we can direct them to do it and they do it, and it worked out really well with our time. And we might have to come back and increase this CCD amount. We're asking for 100 on a $215,000 presentation or proposal from performance. I don't know. So, but we believe, just as we did with the demolition figure, that this is the right direction and a very careful execution of this added work as cost effectively as we can come up with. So that's why we're recommending this. And I'm not sure if you just joined, Lynn, but thank you for all your hard work to make this meeting happen. And you know all the details and how important this is, so I don't need to repeat all that. So we may need another CCD. You'll get a more organized explanation than this, but if you do, we'll request another meeting, or maybe it'll be timed for our next meeting, which I think is February 17th. I'm not 100% sure of that. Yes, it is. Thank you. So likely that will be sufficient because by the time they make progress and can account for how much it really costs, the meeting will be right around the corner, but we'll see. So that is the extent of I'll call it a presentation. Are there any questions from anyone? I see a couple of questions. I see Al, you happen to be on the top of my screen. Al, what do you have there, Al?
Yeah,
Thank
Steve,
you.
I was just wondering, the pipe that you showed the picture of, was that original to the building?
Yes. It was insulation covering it. And part of it, we believe is that the insulation may have kept some of that condensation moisture close to the pipe, which would have contributed to that corrosion. But there's more to that explanation with the test, and some of the results are in. But I didn't want to complicate this conversation with that when that came in today as well. So, I can only speak well to so many things, that come in today. But I knew I didn't want to put off this meeting because I didn't want to put off for another couple of days. I want to keep the pressure on these guys. So that's the thought of this. Yeah. Does that answer your question now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I see Walter with a question as well.
Yeah, I actually got two. But first, kudos to the team for on the pipe removal. That's phenomenal from the $100,000 estimate to 20K. Good job. Appreciate that a lot. I had one question. I'm a little curious because you said that the rough-in inspection is done, so we're ready to roll. Are these pipes not somewhere that they would be covered up, or are they all just hanging out under a ceiling tile or
So,
something?
no, it's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a great answer for you. Just because I'm not in the conversations of the inspection. There's certainly the pipes are up in the ceiling and they will be covered by an acoustical drop ceiling in that area. Um, I don't have a better answer for you. I know the rough inspection typically looks at walls and wires and things that are inside. So maybe they just said everything else, even though we know the pipe is coming, they said it's all
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
But
the
great
drop
question.
ceiling seems very temporary anyway, in the sense that you can look still,
Yeah,
whereas you're talking sheetrock or something or
yeah.
wood, you can't look behind later. Okay. Then the second question is, I'm trying to understand what you're asking now. The original CCD was 50K, of which we'll use 20, but we can't use that because that's for demo. So we're creating a 100K one now for the installation and materials. But we really think if they think it's 215, including 60K materials, that's sufficient, or you think you're likely coming back with something, or what gives you to
Probably.
feel that it's that small, I guess?
Yep. No, it's a great question. probably. 60K is a number on a sheet. I don't know how real that is. I don't know. I think this seemed to work before, keeping the pressure on them and have them provide all the justification that's needed and put that on them. And that's what we have that contractual right to work this way. And it's a tool. And to be clear, for whatever it's worth, we're not trying to get away with anything here. Frankly, maybe it's more of the other side. We're trying to make sure no one's getting away with anything here. And we'll pay for what we get. And that's what this path is. It's nothing more, and it's exactly what we're allowed to do with in the contract with them. Yeah, so that's mostly what it is. So you don't have a pay. Well, and the other way is we couldn't I couldn't possibly make a recommendation to accept a lump sum 215 after what we just found with the demolition costs. Couldn't possibly make that recommendation.
Yeah, at a minimum, they thought the demo was 100, so it should be 200 at the most left, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So with that, and if they overestimate that much, and who knows? Yeah, I don't try to figure out why. I just know,
Yeah.
Navigating it as we've described seems to be best.
That sounds good, but it is the expectation that you'll start here and then we would report
Yes.
back if we have to do anything different.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Don't be surprised, but I sure hope
I'm
we don't
not.
have to.
If I can
Sounds
jump in as well, Walter,
Oh,
what
thanks.
during that demo period, I think kudos to the team as well, setting the expectations on daily check-ins and understanding who's doing the work and how much work is getting done, keeping kind of their feet to the fire with it. And, credit to both Performance and Seaver who has stepped up and understanding that, this is a point in the project that, it's a make or break. And I think that the contractors can shine too, not only from
Yep.
making money, but also at the end of the job when we give them their DCAM rating. And I think they've done pretty well.
Mhm.
What is a DCAM rating?
General contractors and all filed sub-bid contractors get a 50% report card halfway through the construction project. And then at the end, they're also evaluated from an overall perspective. And that gets broken down by about 10 categories where each is assigned a point value. So we grade them on their management, on their time, on their schedule management, on their change order process. All kind of boils down to an overall score, which then goes to the state with DCAM, and then that updates kind of their report card so that they can bid on future work.
Anything else, Walter? Okay, Bob, I see your hand up. And if there are others, I don't see everybody at the moment. So others, please let me know.
Sure. You mentioned that they're looking at 4 weeks to complete the installation. Does this then change? Because I know the end date, we were nervous that it was going to go back to October, perhaps, with the extra demolition and installation work. So does this make it into maybe just a few weeks, only 4 weeks past Labor Day, or what are we looking at?
No, that's a great question. And you, just with all your attendance at these meetings, we talk about this a lot to try to, be really clear on it. So what we've done, Seaver has issued 2 schedules recently, and one of them incorporated, inflated is the wrong word, the full impact that was presented to them from performance. So we now see that very quickly it's not going to be that much. So then we challenged Seaver with a meeting and wanted to really study the logic, and they came back with a far less over schedule than initially, but we still don't really see the logic clearly to understand exactly what this impact is. And it's with our contractual right to do this CCD, we don't have to agree with them today. And that extension, it's a contract extension. And if there's a contract extension, they will get paid per day to have their management on site. That's a right that they would have. So we will certainly be fair, but very aggressive with how realistic and how logical within the logic of their scheduled program, their claim for extra days if it's how real it is or isn't. And there's a lot to that. When you create a schedule, if something goes 5 days later, it may not impact the last day. It may not. And I assure you, we're going to be very, very careful with this to make sure whatever they're requesting, it only will be recommended to you guys after our review when we're completely satisfied that the impacts they're describing actually did push the end date if there is some. So that's how we're looking at that. And we don't know right now exactly what that impact is. And frankly, it's going to take a while because we're going to be extremely diligent to demand schedule information that proves an extension time. And we're not in any rush to do that. We want to make sure we get exactly what we need. So we're convinced that end date did get pushed by this activity. And it may have, but we'll, again, let them and make them prove it. So that's where that is. Al?
Yeah, I was just wondering, with the work that's got to be done on the pipe, is that going to impact the other work that needs to be done to finish the project?
So it's mostly, and Bob Tucker, you can speak to this. I was going to say 90% of the basement work, but you can speak to it, Bob.
Yeah, the majority of the work is in the lower level, with only the risers coming up into the main level. But the problem in trying to show this on paper is that there are certain areas of ceilings, certain areas of walls, and they don't always make a lot of sense when you're looking at trying to schedule other work that has to take place in the same area.
Right.
So there is an inherent difficulty in trying to put together a schedule to show each of the trades, where to start, when to start, so that they aren't tripping over each other.
Yeah, it's like a hyper focus on an item like this, a perfect example, a rusted pipe in the ceiling that was covered far more generally in the schedule. That's what we're up against in terms of examining extension days. But, we're certainly going to pressure this to make sure that they present the case that whatever it impacts, and we won't believe it till we see it on the schedule. So, Brian Forrest?
Yeah, just to quickly and to add on to what Steve had said, we have resources as well that will be looking into the logic on the schedule and just doing kind of a cursory review on the updates that we get every single month. They do have a pretty big tail on the end of their project here, where there's a lot of things that need to be checked out, whether it's commissioning, whether it's owner punch list. A lot of those lie with the designer and the OPM. They're giving themselves time with that. So, those are items we take a hard look at, whether or not we can create some float, make sure that we have our list together to make sure that we're expediting any of those punch lists. I think the hope is that with our review, with the review from LPA, we can be a collaborator with Seaver to try to help tighten up some of this float that we have in the schedule so that we're still maintaining the baseline. I think our baseline had September 1st is where we had a contract signed on that. And we're looking at everything and we'll make sure that we're turning all stones, not just extending it when that's what the change order says. We want to see if there's other things that can be accelerated.
Okay. Are there any more questions?
Bill Lenane.
Go ahead, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, to summarize, I support all of what Steve and Brian have said. On the weekly meetings, they have pressed the contractor and delved into the various things. And I think we would be remiss not going into it now, accepting this 100,000, because it's schedule impact if we don't do it now and give them the push. So I support all of what's being said.
Awesome. So if there is... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Steve. I was just about to say if there were no other questions, then I think we might be ready for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the $100,000, not to exceed $100,000 for the CCD for pipe installation.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Lynn. So I will go across my screen for the vote. So Bob,
Petroselli, yes.
Pete,
Dunback, yes.
Bill,
I'm sorry, Lenane, yes, is it?
Al,
Gordon, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
Sean,
Keo, yes.
Lynn,
Hiccup, yes.
Mary.
Johnston, yes. And I have to apologize. I have to hop off. Thank you, everybody.
No problem.
Thank you, Mary.
And I'm a yes, so that motion is approved.
All right. Thank you very much for jumping in, and we'll be back, hopefully not before the next meeting, with great updates. Thank you.
And just a reminder, we only need 48 hours notice to post a meeting. So as long as we have a quorum with 48 hours notice, we can meet and adjust as needed. Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we adjourn?
Could you send out that slide deck that
Yes.
was shown today? That would
Yes.
be great. No urgency, but and yeah, just thank you guys. Great job.
Yeah,
Very-
thank you.
Very good. Impressive.
All right, if there's no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll call the, thank you. Motion by Bill, second by Bob. So we'll go to the vote. Al,
Gordon, yes.
Bob,
Petroselli, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
Sean,
Keo, yes.
Pete,
Dunback, yes.
Lynn,
Hiccup, yes.
Bill,
Lenane, yes.
and I'm a yes. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.